doing our best to join Onward by Master Atlan, Chapter 70. Press on. So you're the help from Beacon, the wise and old man said as he watched the four youngsters and their designated huntsmen walk through the opening in their wall and back into the village. The grumpy elder's wrinkles gathered as he frowned. I was expecting something a little more impressive. You requested a team from Beacon that arrives and kills your oncoming horde of Grim, and you're griping? It wasn't you who did it. It was that scruffy homeless fella behind you. The Beacon team looked back at Kakashi as the wolf on his looked over himself, wondering how he fit the description, but failing to see how appropriate it was. The surly elder scratched his neck as he looked at the hunters judgmentally. What are you kids even in? Tenten stepped in before Naruto lost his cool. We're first years. This is our end of year assignment. The old man sighed. Great, we get freshmen on the first outing to protect us. This isn't even close to our first outing. Kakashi tilted his head curiously at Naruto's explanation. His teammates turned on him and glared. I mean, it's absolutely our first job like this ever. Though the old village man grumbled disapprovingly, the pharmacist's eye twitched before he took a deep breath and seized through grit teeth. Hey, what's with the huge asshole in your wall? That seems way more important. The old man looked up at the missing section of the wall before looking back at the hunters he'd been working with. He pointed over to the materials stacked on the side. Our wall's the only thing keeping the Grim from storming the town and tearing us apart. It's sturdy, well fortified, and has served as our primary defense for years. So why sit down now? I'm the wall's main constructor, but I can't check every piece of equipment and material that we need. I delegated some of the work to others so we can gather what we need and start maintenance fast. However, I didn't realize that one of the idiots I gave the job to decided he'd rather take a profit than help the village. The old man scowled. He found a cheaper, less lasting material and took the remainder of the budget for himself. Were you still able to build a wall? Oh yeah, except it turns out there was a line of rot on the inside of the wall's lining that spread out and carried over to other sections, which caused the cracks and damage to build up and become brittle. The old man rubbed his eyes inside him. It wasn't bad. It was bad enough that the wall was compromised. But then all the Grim just started to act up. We have no idea why. One day there'd be a rare beowulf spotting, or the occasional creeper. The next day there are droves of these things attacking. And that's been happening a lot down towards the south near the mountains. Kakashi spoke. Many of the villages and settlements near the mountain range have been reporting increased Grim activity and ferociousness over the last few weeks. There have been people trying to figure out why the sudden increase in activity, but there hasn't been anything definite yet. Kiba raised an eyebrow. An increase in Grim activity, and there were a lot of requests for search and destroy missions as well as border support when we looked earlier. Sasuke said, I guess we won't be the only ones coming down along this way to help out. We could definitely use more than just one bunch of kids to save our asses. The old man grumbled again, causing the Beacon students to frown at his persistent grousing. The old man scratched his chin before speaking. The name's Tasuna. I was the fella that put in this request in the first place, and you can come to me if you have any questions. So will we just be protecting the village until you can fix the wall? Tasuna nodded. There are 3 layers to the wall we have to fix before everything is settled. The structure, the lining, and the exterior. It takes time to set everything together, and with the increased Grim attacks, it's becoming a lot harder to fix. Maybe you can just keep those monsters at bay while we put it all together. That'll be a big help. Depending on how long it takes us to settle it all up, it should take at most a day. 2 tops. Save a village, fix a wall, and kill any and all Grim coming our way. His teammates smiled and nodded in return as Naruto cracked his knuckles. Sounds like a job for Team Noctix. Hunting, the young Beacon team did the best they could to fight their boredom as they patrolled the boundaries of the village. They guarded the portion of the wall that was still in need of assembling, while the rest of it was managed and protected by the villagers. This was the biggest spot to invade through, and when the Grim made their way over, they'd be met with a head-on Beacon assault. But they were currently in a severe lull of anything to do as the builders got to work, and there were no Grim whatsoever to fight. Kakashi was reading his book again while standing off to the side. After his initial impressive display of power, he had warned the team that he wouldn't be interfering any further. He would just be in and help if they got overwhelmed or any Grim got too close. But since this was their assignment, he was going to leave fighting, coordination, and decision making up to them. It was their assignment, and he was just here to make sure things didn't take a turn. So, is it just me, or are these assignments not nearly as exciting as we expected? And I'm used to nod in agreement. Hell, even the outings we took ourselves started showing more promise by this point. Speak for yourself. Kenton bitterly noted. At this point, I was just relegated to reconnaissance and spying. First with Wilson, then watching you and Blake go into that White Fang assembly, and then when we were figuring out what was up with Gara, I get all the boring jobs dumped on me. Well, it is boring, and there's nothing to do, but technically that's a good thing considering we're supposed to be protecting the town from Grim. Sasuke made a valid point that they had to agree to, even though it did nothing to alleviate the boredom. Kiba hummed as he spun his tongue around his arms. I wonder what Ruby's doing right now. Hunting. Ruby, your dog is barking at me. Can you please take him away while I'm busy? Sorry. Ruby sliced up the Grim in front of her before dashing over to Blake's side. The faunus was spinning through the air and slicing through the werewolves with her sickle as Y happily barked and panted close by. The hooded girl ran through and swept the courier off of his feet before vanishing off to the side. Dr. Ooblet. Yes, Miss Rose. The green-haired teacher looked down at the short leader as the girl held up her dog. Swain panted heavily with his tongue hanging open and looking at Bartholomew in return. The husband pocketed his notebook and plucked the puppy from her hands. Of course, I shall oversee your little canine fan while you and your team dispatch the Grim Menace. Please and thank you. Ruby disappeared again in a trail of rose petals and left Ooblik along with the dog. He lifted the pup up to face level. Would you like to hear my thesis on ancient Grim migration patterns and nesting grounds? The dog gave a tiny whine response. Would you like to go walkies? Ruff! I knew you would. Hunting, maybe we should be considering our choices a little more seriously instead of just picking the one with the quickest employment. Pretty sure that's what Juniper did. Hunting. Okay, I think I got all I need for our assignment tomorrow. Laura gleefully cheered. Snacks and treats that will last us for at least a week. Will they last the three of us for a week? Because that means you'll probably get through them in a day. 3 to 6 hours tops. Don't worry, silly. I packed your lunch bag. Laura stepped over and gestured to a small bag containing the meals they need to sustain themselves for the trip. And then I packed mine. The short berserker then pointed to a larger, much heavier duffel bag that looked ready to burst. Her teammates looked at her with dull stares as she stuck out her tongue and went back to checking her supplies. I have magazines, game systems, scrolls, chargers. I threw away all the books. I really hope you aren't serious. And I packed the swimsuits. Doug got her some odd, confused looks as she shrugged. What if we get a spontaneous pool party as a reward for us kicking so much ass? Hey Pyrrha, I thought your last swimsuit covered a bit too much, so I bought you a new one. It's this tiny micro. Nora, Hunting. I wonder what the others are doing right now, too. Hunting. Alright, you filthy, disgusting scumbag. We got some questions we're gonna ask you, and it feels like this is the perfect opportunity to air them all out. You aren't gonna get anything out of me, you sick slags. You should definitely get talking while you still have the chance. See, I'm willing to hear you out and let you talk, but my partner here, talk, you monsters. We know you did it. I didn't do anything. A liar. That expensive chocolate was something we were keeping to share, but you went and ate it all for yourself. Confess. I'd never. Don't make us bring out the clamps. You have no rights here. The door swung open and the lights in the interrogation room flicked on. Sage was stood at the entrance with the police officer as they looked at the 3 teens. What are you idiots doing? I'm trying to get a confession out of Scarlet. We know he ate the chocolate the other day. We're this close to breaking him. They haven't broken anything. Look, if you 3 are done playing around, hey Sage, when were you the night that the chocolate was eaten? The green-haired teen sighed and turned to the professional. Officer Heyman, can you please? Actually, I'm on break right now, so you kids have fun before I get back. So his eyes widened and he looked back to his team as the door closed behind him. Oh crap. Hunting, we might not be killing any Grim or in the middle of any awesome adventure, but I thought you'd be a little more excited, Naruto. The blonde tilted his head before his partner smirked and pointed back at the wall. Isn't this part of your dream job? If you never got to become a huntsman, why don't you go over there and ask if you can hammer away on the wall too? And how about you go in there and see if any puppies have splinters in their paws? Naruto rebuked her, frowning at his partner before looking back. I'm pretty sure bothering those people while they work with the childhood fantasy I had stacking blocks is just gonna piss them off. Besides, I did become a huntsman in the end, and I'm doing my job right now by helping watching this village. Fair enough. The Nusaka then paused and looked around before turning to his team. Hey, they said there'd be a big increase in grim activity around the south region, right? And didn't you and Blake say one of the White Bang operations was taking place in the southeast? That's not just a coincidence, is it? I thought the same thing, Sasuke noted. A hidden terrorist cell causing enough negativity to rile up Grim doesn't seem like a far-fetched idea. Didn't Team Ruby go to the southeast? You think they'll be okay? I can contact Ruby later to see how she and the others are doing, but for now they should be able to handle themselves. So they heard a low growl and rustle in the grass. A large bear wolf started to stalk its way out of the trees and into their field of vision. It was an alpha, although only slightly bigger than a normal bear wolf, and not like the one they faced in the initiation. The workers on the wall paused to look at the monsters. Sasuke drew out his sword and stepped forward as he was closest to the beast as it predated towards him. The Uchiha paused when he got closer, and he stopped. Caused his teammates to steal as well. He lowered his hand to take hold of his sheath, and the others took this as a sign to draw the weapons as well. A pack of bear wolves sprinted out from around the alpha and charged towards the wall. They parted around the alpha and Uchiha as they faced each other. Sasuke's eyes narrowly, gripping his blade in one hand and his sheath in the other. The Grim howled and leapt at him as the huntsman dashed in, the monster swiping for his head, and Sasuke knocked the claw away with his weaponized sheath. He spun it around and aimed the shotgun end up at the Grim's head. He fired, but the alpha guarded itself with both spindly furry arms. It threw them down at its side and roared, "Hold them back!" Naruto yelled as he and the others stood their ground. The blonde farmer's and the tattooed boy charged forward into the oncoming swarms. Now Naruto's Nodachi slashed through the Grim like ribbons as Kiba barreled through them, ripping them apart and breaking their bodies apart like paper. Titan stood at the rear, spinning her sticks around as their elemental properties activated. She swung them out wildly and sent icicles and fireballs at each bear wolf that tried to slip past her. One cried out in agony at the ice projectiles that stuck out of its collar, but still leapt over its brothers to attack her. She ducked under its swipe and jabbed the end of her sticks into its gut before releasing a burst of electricity. The bear wolf howled before falling over dead. We can't let them get back. We won't. And even get close, and will. Naruto stopped to stab his Nodachi into Beowulf's chest as it lit out a dying gargle. However, another Grim used his back to vault over their heads and charge at the construction workers. They saw the beast coming and panicked. Kiba! He immediately turned around and released his ammunition into the back of the charging monster. Its body shook and reverberated with countless rounds being emptied into it before falling to the ground dead. The construction workers let out a sigh of relief before they realized their mistake. In the heat of the moment, they had panicked and released the hold on the structure they were planting. It was swaying out of their reach and threatened to topple over and break. No! Naruto summoned his aura and hand threw it out, making it to stretch and grow large enough to grab the frame before it could fall. As if realizing what he had just done, Naruto took a deep breath and forced his hand to move out further. The aura constructor followed his desire and fixed the wall back into place. Once it was straight and the workers grabbed hold of it again, Naruto relaxed his grip and dispelled his semblance. The workers Kakashi, Tenten, and Kibo, while giving him looks of surprise and amazement, even Naruto looked shocked by what he had just done. He coughed and focused back on the task at hand. I think that's all of them. Hey Sasuke, do you need him? They looked back in time to see the Uchiha deftly sliced under off the vicious swipe. He jumped back to his feet and fired a shot into the back of its knees, point blank. It toppled over and wildly swung for him again. Sasuke easily parried and lopped off its claw. The creature screamed in pain before the katana came down on its scalp and pierced through to its mouth. The alpha toppled over and Sasuke casually walked off its back as it did. The beast head being used as a step as he walked down on solid ground. Sasuke wiped his sword out and slid it back in its sheath before rejoining his team. Were you saying something? No, apparently not. Holy crap, Naruto! Tenten gushed and ran over to her leader before grabbing his hand and examining it. I know you've been working on your semblance, but I had no idea you've gotten this far with it. That was amazing. Yeah, Naruto muttered, his face stretched with an apprehensive but excited smile. I didn't know I could do that either. All of my training with that old toad, and I've never gotten it to be that stable before. Well, you pulled it out in the clutch. Cuba chuckled. Any idea what made it different this time? Well, this was much more important than just the training. I wasn't thinking about it too hard and just doing what felt right. I did the same thing last night when I was fighting that lady with Ruby. Maybe it was because I just finished fighting my heart was beating fast. Oh, and I wasn't fielding questions from the old man and ignoring him when he brought up his sex. Naruto snapped his fingers. I didn't know why this time was easier. It looked like you've already started making your semblance your own. Naruto looked over at Sasuke as the Uchiha smiled mockingly. Makes all that war in your head a few years back seem pointless now, doesn't it? The Whisker Teen chuckled. Don't remind me. Hey kid, the construction workers called out from the barrier. What on running was that? Oh, it was my semblance. Your semblance? Shit, I might need to get myself one of those. The worker turned back to his companions and talked with them before they all nodded him. Hey, do you think you could do that big hand thing again? If you could try to hold the frames up, we could put them together a whole lot faster than we initially expected. Get those work done in less than a day. Hey, Tasuna turned to the others and frowned. The kids already have enough work saving asses from the Grim. Don't give them ours too. Oh, come on, boss. It'll really help. What do you say, kid? Doctor froze from the attention except from his ears, excitedly twitching along atop his head. He felt someone push him on the back, and the fondness came back to reality. Yeah, sure. I'm still practicing with it, so I can't make any promises. But I'll do whatever I can help. The workers gave a cheer and round of applause as the young huntsman came running over. Tenten and Kiba grinned before following after him and offering them whatever help they could give. Sasuke remained vigilant and stood at the ready in case any more Grims started to appear. From the side, Kakashi watched the young team act with a small smile before returning to his book. Hunted, we're not sure why he's so crabby, but we think it has something to do with a girlfriend he had when he was younger that dumped him and ran off with the huntsman. Or was it a huntress? Hey boss, how did you get dumped as a kid? I think it's none of your goddamn concern. Tasuna groused as he and the other workers made their way back into the village to take their break. The old builder looked back at his fellow workers' surroundings and talking with the young hunters, asking them questions about life at Beacon. The old builder looked back at the blonde faunus. I had no idea you kids could make big hands like that whenever you wanted. Is it just hands or are your feet and heads susceptible to change as well? Just the hands right now, and it's just me. Not admitted a little embarrassed with the attention he was getting, but failing to stop his grin. Hey, we don't look so incompetent now, do we, old man? Huh? Don't get cocky, you little punk. Tasuna grumbled as the others laughed at his expense. The lead constructor whipped his neck down before looking up and spotting someone standing in the break area. Oh shit! And what are you doing here? Don't sound so happy to see me, Dad. The woman groaned before holding up a pop bottle and shaking it. I think you may have left these at home. At this point, I think you're doing it on purpose. Ugh, like a monkey on my back. Tasuna muttered and noticed his daughter was refusing to just walk away. He wrinkled the old wrinkled man rolled his eyes before opening his hand. His daughter handed him the pills and he swallowed what he needed with a strained face. Thanks, darling. Love you, Dad. Hey, Mr. Nami, please tell me you brought us some good food today. Sorry, fellas, no such luck. I was in kind of a hurry to make sure this old codger got his pills. I was tempted to wrap them up in cheese so he could eat it. The construction workers broke down in laughter as the old construction boss growled and picked up his tray. Naruto, Tenten, and Sasuke grabbed theirs as well at the back of the line. After accepting the offer to come and eat with the builders, Kiba said he'd keep a watch at the wall, and he and Kakashi standing by to help him in case anything happened. The way you used that sword was amazing, kid. Like something out of a movie. Did we can show you how to do that? No, just lots of training. Sasuke flatly responded, "Oh, well, don't you get scared fighting those grims? Not as much anymore. Geez, kid, is there anything that gets a reaction out of you? Hey, Sasuke, how do things work out with you and Weiss last night?" Sasuke nearly tripped over his feet and glared at his partner while the workers whistled and jeered. Tintin grinned at his response before nudging his leader's back. This is going pretty well, don't you think? "I know, right?" Naruto laughed. "We're cleaning the ground and helping the people building a barrier, and it's just the first day. I think this is going to be smooth." A wet splash hit his tray and caused him to pause. They looked down at the insipid, flavorless brown soup in a plastic bowl that fell to whet their appetite, along with a cup of water and a plain cheese sandwich. This was their meal before going back on patrol. The students couldn't hide how their faces contorted at the idea. "Yeah, no one likes it." One of the workers read their expressions and knew exactly what they were thinking. The students made their way over to stay with the villagers and saw that while they were digging into their meal, it was more of a resignation in their eating than actual enjoyment. One of the workers shook her head. But it fills us up and keeps us going through the work, so we can't really complain. Really?" Naruto scooped some murky brown soup up and let it drip over his spoon. "You sure you have nothing to say about this?" "Don't be nasty," Tintin reprimanded, making the younger teen grumble as he stared down at his food. The bunny-haired girl smiled and scooped up some of her soup. It may not look gourmet, but that doesn't mean." She sipped it up and let it sit in her mouth. Sasuke and Naruto watched her friend in silence as she seemed to sit there with the soup in her mouth before she closed her eyes and forced it down. A cough and shudder later, she shook her head. "At least we have a sandwich." Naruto raised his spoon and sniffed the meal with a shudder. He shook his head before placing his tray aside and walking away. He made his way over to Tasuna, who was still talking with his daughter. As they looked up at him, "Excuse me, ma'am, do you have some spices and condiments in your house?" Yes." She seemed confused by his question. "Do you mind if I borrow some of them? I suppose I can spare a few, but what will you be doing with them exactly?" "Making an edible meal." Then I'll show you the way." Tsunami quickly understood his motivation and made him follow into the village. "Dad, I'll be back once I help this young man make an appropriate meal." "Hey, don't just walk around in my house, you damn brat. Tsunami, get back here. Damn it." Tatsuna grudgingly murmured before finishing his meal, often one sitting shoveling the food down uncaringly before looking at the two young students. "Your friend is a real hard kid to like, you know that." "Maybe, but we love him." Tintin chuckled as Sasuke nonchalantly shrugged. But can we ask why you have a problem with him and with us for that matter?" They were turned to the wizened old man. "Do you have a problem with huntsmen and huntresses? Did you have a bad experience with them before?" "No, damn it, I don't hold a grudge or anything. How petty do you people think I am?" His grouchy bark was convincingly ignored by everyone who were too scared to give an answer. Tasuna scratched his chin before picking himself and making his way back towards the wall. "My grandson's been mulling over the idea of becoming a huntsman for a while. He's still at that age where he can't decide what his future will hold, and everything's possible. And then I see you kids out there away from home and fighting green for people you don't even know." Dogan looked conflicted as he walked past them. "How am I supposed to rest easy when I think about my grandson doing what you do?" Then Sasuke watched the man's back as he left them with that thought. It wasn't malicious, and although he was rather curt with them, he wasn't deriding or demonizing what they did. Being a hunter was a necessity in this world, and they all knew that. But he didn't want to see his grandchild look at such a dangerous and life-threatening occupation for the rest of his life. They could understand his intent because at one point in their lives they had experienced something similar with their families too. This job was necessary for the people that remnant, but some preferred other people risked their lives to save the world instead of their families. "I'm back!" Naruto yelled as he came running over with a small bag of stuff he had gotten from Tatsuna's home. He slid to a stop in front of the teammates and immediately rummaged through the bag. "Mr. Name had an amazing selection of stuff, so get ready to be knocked off your feet." "We're sitting." "Shut up." The blonde's hands blurred, and he upended the spices and other activities to their soup to fix the flavor. When he finished, he quickly grabbed their spoons and swirled the soups around until the additions blended in with the initial meal. Once finished, he pulled his hands back and looked between them. "Go ahead." The partners grabbed their spoons and partook of their fixed meals. Their eyes were in shock. "Holy crap, Naruto! That's way better. He popped up on his feet and looked around. Everyone, I brought some stuff to add some flavor to your meal if you wanted it. Also, I brought a frying pan and some butter. Who wants grilled cheese? Yes. Hunting. Wait, you're back. Kakashi pushed off the wall and closed his book. When he saw the workers returning from the break, he spotted the three young students come out as well, carrying the bowls and trays. Did you bring us something? Teddy smiled and held up the tray. We got dinner, offered from the villagers and perfected with a little Naruto Uzumaki magic. Kiba, we got some for you too. Naruto made that. Get it over here now. Kiba jumped down from his position atop the partially finished wall and came running over for his meal. Kakashi accepted his bowl of soup and grilled sandwiches with an appreciating hum. However, before he could eat, he looked up and saw Naruto stare at him intently while Sasuke watched a little off to the side. The wolf on his tilted his head. Is something the matter? Not at all. I just want to make sure you're keeping up with your nourishment and eating your meals. So go ahead, eat. Right now, do it right now. Hey kid, we got some hefty meals over here. We need help lifting. Want to use your magic and powers? Can you wait a little till later? Naruto cried out as his eyes remained totally focused on the mask covered on Husband's face. After a moment, he hung his head in defeat and quickly turned around. I'm coming. Just tell me when it's set. Your leader is quite an odd young man. Sasuke looked back up at the older huntsman who attempted to show his smile even though he was hidden behind his mask. A little too excited considering the line of work, but still eager and willing to help the people in need however he can. I'm guessing he wanted to be a huntsman for quite a while, right? Your friend over there told me a little about each of you, and I feel like the description hit your friend there on the head. Sasuke remained silent and eyed the man cautiously before looking back over towards his team. Naruto was holding a large section of the inner wall up with his semblance. Teddy was using her steel to act as support or stand in for the wall, so the workers could make their adjustments. The metal she made from semblance wouldn't last forever and would disappear into ore again if it didn't return to her. But what she made could be used temporarily to help. And Kiba was taking a well-deserved rest while digging into his meal, barely even remembered to chew or enjoy it while he shoved it all down. You should probably think about doing these rounds in pairs instead of all at once. Kakashi admitted him. You're going to wear yourselves out all standing on patrols and fighting at once like this. Well, we can do that, and we'll be doing that once Naruto's done helping and Kiba's finished eating. Then and I will have the first rotation and do it for 2 hours before switching out. Sasuke kept his gaze out on the forest while talking with the older Faunus. That should give us enough time to properly rest between patrols and get us through the night. Smart choice. There was a tone of amusement in Kakashi's voice as he chuckled at the antics. They stood together in silence for a moment before the wolf man spoke up. I was honestly surprised to see Uchiha working on a team like this. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself from showing any intense or angry reaction at the huntsman. He turned and shook his head. If you have some problem with that, then I'm sorry, but have you heard the name Obito Uchiha before? That gave Sasuke more pause as he stared at Kakashi. The scarred on his closest eyes inside him. I suppose even if you share the name, it doesn't mean you be close knitted or know all your relatives. I just thought I'd ask him. Who was this Obito? An old teammate of mine, a better man than most, and someone I considered my best friend. Kakashi looked at the young man wistfully with his eye lingering back on the team by the wall. We were part of a team while we were at school. I was cautious and distrustful of someone with the name Uchiha, and I felt quite reasonable in my hesitation, but Obito didn't even seem to care. He wore the crest and name of his family with pride, but never let his history or past dissuade him from what he wanted to do. He wanted to help people and maybe one day legitimize his name to the former glory and prestige one had, make the Uchiha name a force for good and honor like it might once have been. Something similar to what Itachi wanted. He wanted to revitalize their name in a hope he could use it to fight the terrible forces that threatened people around the world. But considering how his name was still besmirched, he suspected his Obito's efforts were about as fruitful as his brother's. I didn't think he would ever actually do it, and I probably vocalized that opinion far more times times than strictly necessary, Kakashi said, remembering the scenes of him and his team with melancholy in his voice. But in the end, helping people and making sure they survived the evils they couldn't handle meant more to him than redeeming his family name, and he followed through with them, even at the cost of his own life. I'm sorry. Thank you. Kakashi nodded gratefully before showing an amused look in his eye. For as long as I've had to hear people say Obito was just one in a million, that there was no such thing as an Uchiha who was good and selfless, but I'm starting to see just how wrong they were. He was hardly good or selfless, but he didn't feel like ruining the huntsman's mood. Sasuke did however, give a small smirker. Are you worried I might one day give my life for the greater good? You seem much too aware to risk yourself like that. Kakashi looked past him and back towards his teammates. Your leader, however, I feel like I'm looking back at Obito when I see him, which can be considered a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. On one hand, always wanting to help people is a quality that should be passed on to others as much as possible. And the point Sasuke didn't even need spoken was that Naruto's willingness to run into danger to help others could easily lead to his end one day. I'm not saying it's inevitable or that it's destined to happen or anything, but it is an observation worth taking as a warning. I want to see all of you grow up and do what you can to affect this world. Kakashi showed a kind look in his eye as he took his tray and turned to walk into the village. I wish you the best in your life, Sasuke. He left Uchiha to mull over his thoughts by the village's walls, and once again none of the young hunters noticed when the man pulled down his mask to eat his lunch. Hunting, are you okay? You look tired. Tintin tried to stifle her yawn as she and her partner made their way back into the village to rest. The sun was still cresting over the edge of the horizon and was painting the sky in a beautiful mix of orange, red, and purple. They had been monitoring and patrolling the walls since the early morning, and it was now almost dark. They had skirmished with one or two grandma at a time over the last few hours, but there were no big packs like when they arrived. Apparently, all the work that had been done on the wall and their presence here was enough to reassure the workers and village people that they would be safe. The bunny-haired girl finished her tired yawn and rubbed her eyes before chuckling. Of course I'm tired. I did more wall building today than I did fighting. I might just have to make a career change if I get any more experience setting up boundaries and crafting inner support systems. Tenten nearly flopped down into her sleeping bag and moaned into the soft embrace of her pillow. Sasuke slowly lowered into his sleeping bag as well, but resisted the charm of falling back and resting into the pillow. He sat up, staring up at the sky and looking around at the village. I think we're all exhausted after last night. I'm glad you were working things out with her. Tenten had repositioned herself, so her head was resting sideways, giving her a chance to look at her partner. She smiled. You look like you had a lot of fun dancing with her. Was I smiling or something? You didn't need to smile. You just looked more content and at peace than you have your entire life here. She laughed as he grumbled. So have you to decide on anything set or permanent? He shook his head. We just danced pretty much the entire rest of the night. We looked at each other and said goodbye, and that was it. Whatever we can be, we haven't decided yet. I didn't remember much of last night either. We just got close, and she felt so right in my arms. Daichio looked more lost than he ever had before finding the idea of talking about these things and her more difficult than fighting any grammar. I'm not sure what to do. Boys and girls act like that sometimes when they think about trying something new. You two have done so much with your lives, but this is different for both of you. You're unsure. She's hesitant. That's what it's like when you want to date. Tenten smiled. Trust me, I've had experience. Any advice? Don't put it off too long. Meet together and make it clear what you want. Don't miss words. Sasuke sighed and ran his hand through his hair. Can we talk about something else? I'm sure you wouldn't like to make a conversation based on your possible relationships. You're right about that. After last night, mine would just break your heart. Tenten turned around and rested her arms behind her head. Anything else you want to talk about? The huntsman knew another Uchiha when he was younger. Tenten looked up at him with a look of surprise before he shook his head. I'm not going to meet him anytime soon. Apparently, he passed a long time ago. Answering the question, didn't she even get to ask? As her expression changed to one of disappointment and sadness, he appreciated her feelings towards him, finding more of his family. Apparently, he was an upstanding young man who gave his life saving people. Who was he? A distant relative, someone who had the name but I never met before. The young swordsman leaned back on his hand. Apparently, he had a dream to fix the Uchiha name, to one day make up for all of its atrocities and make our family a name, one of peace and honor. He remained silent with ideas sitting in his head. I really don't know how successful he would have been if he had gotten the chance. Tendon shifted over her bag to face him. Do you ever think about doing that someday? I mean, you're strong, and I bet you'll be a great huntsman when you graduate. You might be able to do it one day if you try hard enough. Putting aside whether the Uchiha name even deserves that kind of redemption, I can't be focused about doing something like that before I can even think about saving the name. I want to focus on myself for now. Tendon looked bewildered before he explained. For the longest time, I've always been worried about what my family history could mean for me. If I was born with some predisposition for hurting people, if I was most comfortable fighting and killing than I was living a peaceful daily life, then I wondered if it was because of my name or just because it was part of me. Sasuke, I ran away from the Uchiha because when I faced down Naruto and I prepared myself to hunt him down and kill him, I couldn't bring myself to do it, and I realized that I couldn't follow my brother's plan to fight. But since then, sometimes more times than I'm willing to admit, there's been a voice at the back of my mind when we're facing people, and I thought they should be stopped for good. But you haven't acted on those feelings, not once, because I'm afraid of how I might act after I did. All the restraint and control I thought I had might all just evaporate if I slip up. You don't really believe that, do you? Tenten sat up and faced her partner. Sasuke, tell me you don't think you're some kind of mass murderer in waiting? Of course not. I know I'm not just going to start slaying each and every person I come across, but I'm worrying that when I'm in the middle of a fight, I might not be willing to hold myself back anymore. Don't think like that. Tenten yelled and silenced her partner's uncertainty. You don't have some evil or horror deep inside of you that wants to hurt people. How could you think of yourself like that for even a moment? She took a sharp breath and stared at her friend before shaking her head. In the whole time I've known you, I've never seen a part of you that was vicious or cruel or ever enjoyed inflicting pain. You might think you're teetering on the edge of becoming some awful villain, but you're so far away from it. You don't even have it in your sight. So don't ever think you're that kind of person. You have trouble talking with people and conveying things honestly, but you are always willing to help. That's who you are. Not even going to let me think about it, are you? Nope. Tenten remained sternly glowering at Sasuke, nodded in reluctance but relieved agreement. The bunny-haired girl nodded and crawled back up over her back. You can still focus on your own goals while you become a huntsman, but don't think you're holding back some great evil within yourself when you do. You're helping people and saving lives, and that's all you need to think about. That's what we're all doing. We're here helping people right now. Oh, I guess you're right, but I think you guys are a lot more honest about it. Tenten let a nervous chuckle and nodded. After a moment, she felt her partner's eyes focus on her. What? Why do you say it like that? Like you aren't someone who helps people all the time? I don't think you realize how much Naruto, Kiba, and I owe you for always being a kind of constant in our lives. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. But sometimes when we talk about being hunters, you do right and talk about yourself. It's like it's bad that you're going to become a huntress or less meaningful. Well, it is, she whispered and shrugged. I mean, you are becoming huntsmen and huntresses to help save people or right some terrible wrong in the world. And me, I'm just doing this for reward and recognition. Why? Because I want people to know me. I don't. She paused and left him with nothing more and more to fall on. Then Renee dragged her legs in and hit her face and her knees before whispering, I don't want to be forgotten. My dad always loved weapons, how they looked and what they were capable of in the hands of the right person. He's the reason I love weapons so much too. By being a hunter, I got that from my mom. That's how she and my dad met. By the way, she came in to have her weapons upgraded, and Dad was just the guy to do it. Apparently, she really loved how passionate and goofy he was when fixing them, which she felt was charming. After a while, she only came to my dad for managing and upgrading, and after a few attempts, she finally said yes when he asked her out. A couple years later, they were married, and I was born with a penchant for loving weapons and a desire to be just as a cool huntress as my mom. And she was so cool. She killed Grim after Grim. She helped people all around. She was an exemplary huntress until a Grim on a mission, right? Sasuke, yes. No, he sat up, looked surprised as she remained huddled. She came from her mission without a scratch, and then she toppled over unconscious. She woke up a little later and told her she was fine, but she had more episodes where she would just lose consciousness. And then she started having major seizures, then regular ones. She couldn't go out fighting anymore. She struggled to breathe, and sometimes the woman who was the strongest in the world to me slowly started to fade away in a hospital bed. Now her version to hospitals and medical facilities made more sense. When she came to visit him and Naruto during the hospital stay, she looked like she was forcing herself not to fret or panic. He just thought that she was uncomfortable with the strange situation they were in at the time, which may have also been true. But every time she visited them, it reminded her of her mother. Even when she was in the hospital, she still stayed strong. She tried everything she could to be my mother while she was in her treatments. She cheered for me when I entered the Mistral tournament. She helped me study for my classes and tests. She was perfect, even when she looked weaker and weaker. Her spirits never broke. She knew she was going to make it out okay. Her voice cracked at the end of her sentence. Sasuke noticed her hand tense and bundled up her clothing. I was 15 when she finally passed. No matter what I do or whether I am, I can't stop thinking back at the last time I saw her stepping out of her room for the night and saying goodbye as she smiled. After an entire day of spending time with each other, watching our favorite movies and playing our favorite games, I skipped school to spend time with her, and she didn't even care. That should have been the sign she knew that her time was coming up. She let out a struggled sob and struggled to calm her breath. After a moment, she forced herself to calm down and continue. We buried her, and our house just became so empty and quiet, like the life inside it was unceremoniously ripped away without any warning or concern. Me and my dad have tried to go on without her. We're happy, and we go on each day. But the difference is so obvious it hurts, and I'm scared because someday when I'm older, I know it might happen to her too. If her mother had it and it's genetic, then the day might come when she shows the same symptoms as her mother. The people whose lives she saves and the villagers that she helped protect, they remember and honored her with the plaques and memories. But that's all that's left of her now, just memories and honors and pictures. It hurts just imagining, and that's all she's left behind. But they remember that I don't even have that. I haven't done anything to make my life worth it. No one who can remember me when it's my time. You only live as long as the last person that remembers you, and I can't imagine I'll be here long. So that's why you want to be a huntress. I wanted to say, people, do something with my life. Make it mean something. I know it's so damn selfish compared to everyone else. I want to help people like Ruby and Naruto, or fight for a good cause like you and Blake, and what I do to be noble. But in the end, I'm just glad it might make people remember me. I hate that that's all I can imagine when I'm doing something. Her shoulders shook as he saw tears fall between her knees. I just feel so worthless when I make it all about that. But I still do. She gritted her teeth and shook. I just don't want to disappear. Sasuke stared at his partner in silence as she sobbed and cursed herself. She gripped her knees so tightly they started to shake, and there was no way she was going to relax after getting this worked up. He doubted if she would hear him to say it wasn't selfish or that it meant something, even if she even if she did, she might not believe it. But he stepped over to her back, sat down beside her, and wrapped his arm around her, hoping to give her a modicum of the support he had received from her time and time again. Her sobbing persisted, but it quieted down enough that he knew she could hear him whisper, "I'll remember you for the rest of my life. We all will. We'll never forget you." Hunting. There was a ringing from the back by their side that was holding the descent to slumber. The two partners growled as the ringing continued and stopped any chance of falling back to sleep. "Naruto," Kiba growled into his pillow, "turn off your scroll or I will break it." "Damn it!" The fox finally huffed and forced himself out of his sleeping bag. He grabbed his knapsack and started rummaging through it. It was their turn to rest before the next patrol started, and they had to walk around in the cold night air again. The workers there had realized their progress was coming along much faster than expected, and asked if they could work through the night as they fixed the last of the defenses up. Of course, that meant they had to keep with the rest of the patrol. They had to keep with the rest and patrol rotating through the night. It was good work, but it was so damn exhausting. Naruto let out an appropriate groan as he finally located his scroll and yanked it out. He found a screen lit up with a picture of him and Ruby making goofy faces at the camera. Was she still awake this late at night? He answered, "Ruby, we're trying to sleep, can you?" There was a loud static noise from the other side, followed by a faint thud before the call immediately cut out. An automatic voice followed after saying the call could not connect. "What'd she say?" Kiba mumbled. I think she butt dialed or something." Naruto yawned and put his scroll aside. His friend must have contacted him by mistake and couldn't make the call reach. It was awkward, but not something he needed to focus on. He leaned back into his pillow and closed his eyes, but found them open again as they lingered on his device and the call that didn't come through. "Hunting, did someone hear that?" "No." He picked up the scroll and saw the call that had failed. Barely any service. It cut out. "Thank God. We would have been screwed if she made it through. What do we do now?" "It should be obvious. We take her to the boss." The White Fang duo looked down at the hooded girl. They had knocked unconscious after finding her in her catacombs. They grabbed her under her arms and dragged her back with them. Back to the others. End of chapter 70.